Well, they obviously ran out of moderators because I'm back again, this time with Mikel, John, Obi. I'm going to clear something up in 10 seconds, though, because we hear
right.
John, Obi, Mikel, and Mikel, John, Obi. I've asked you this question before, but let me just put it out there for everyone. Which do you prefer?
The way you said it, John, Obi, Mikel.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's great to have you here at Web Summit. We're going to be talking about your fantastic, award-winning podcast. Tell us more.
Oh, well, it's been absolutely amazing, really. I think, obviously, as a football player, you finish playing football, you finish your career. It's so easy to say, okay, I want to become a coach, I want to become a manager, or I want to do punditry. But for me, I looked at the whole scenario. I was like, what is it that I can do to challenge myself? Something that not a lot of football players get into. And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? Podcast it is. Let's go. And I mean, it didn't take long. I met my co-star Chris McCarty in Dubai. We live in Dubai, and of course, we just spark up a little kind of relationship from there, and we just bounce off each other. Podcast has been doing really well, as everybody knows. How many people listen to it here, though? So yeah, it's doing really well. I mean, over 3 months, we've had almost about 27 million views, over 400 downloads. So we're flying. So happy.
Who named it?
I wouldn't take credit for that. It was actually Chris. Yeah. So yeah.
The Obi One Podcast, for those of you that don't know, check it out across social media.
Yeah.
So Chris McCarty, who is the co-host of the podcast, named it, but you presumably are the guest booker.
I am the guest booker. I mean, like I said, but one thing I've been very fortunate all throughout my career is that I've always played with great football players, but also great individuals, people, and you form a good relationship with these guys, and then over the years, you guys become so close. And whenever you pick up the phone and give them a call, they'll answer. Someone like Jose Mourinho, who never did a podcast before. I sent him a text. I said, boss, I need you to do my podcast. He was like, really? I don't do these kind of things. I was like, I know. But I definitely do need you. And he was the coach who brought me to Chelsea. He gave me my debut. He calls me his son. And then he came on board and he did it. So it was absolutely amazing. Jose was fantastic. The same like Eden Hazard as well, which we just released the last episode.
Eden Hazard, John Terry, Frank Lampard, Jose Mourinho. But when you're talking to them, it's a different dynamic. You call Jose Mourinho the boss.
Yeah.
You're used to listening to him. Suddenly, he's listening to you. You might ask him a difficult question. How long did it take you to get comfortable with that podcast dynamic as host?
Well, it took me a long time, especially Jose. He texted me. He's like, what questions are you going to ask me? I said, boss, can I just call you on video call and tell you? He's like, sure. I called him. He was like, don't ask me that. That is not going. You don't ask me that, especially when it came to what is his greatest 11. He refused to answer that because that was going to create a lot of controversy. He's managed a lot of big players. Imagine if he puts Drogba, a striker, and he doesn't put Samuel Eto'o. So he knew it was going to be very controversial. So he said, no, don't ask me that question. But the rest of them, they're pretty easy. JT was easy. Of course, the skipper, he kickstarts everything. So that's why I wanted JT as my first, and then everybody else follows. So it's always been like that. We followed him everywhere we go when we were playing.
One of the biggest names, along with Mourinho, I mean, they're all giants in football, but to get a current name like Victor Osimhen made headlines all around the world. How did that come about?
Well, Victor, I knew he came into the national team just before I retired. So I met him a couple of times, and I spoke to him. Was such a lovely guy, a very humble kid. And since then, I started following his journey, his career. And I mean, he's been absolutely fantastic for Napoli. And this season as well, he's been absolutely brilliant. Went to the Nations Cup, had a great tournament. So when I called him, he was like, okay. Skip, I'll do it. And I was like, okay, sure. And then he came on. He was absolutely fantastic. I'm still his agent, trying to get him to Chelsea. So I've got 20% of that deal. Let's hope it works out.
Well, I have to ask you about that. Of course, the podcast naturally has a lot of Chelsea followers. Victor Osimhen to Chelsea. genuine possibility or just media hype?
I think there's genuine interest between both. I think he loves the club. He wants to come to the club. Obviously, he wants to follow my footsteps as a Nigerian player who's played for Chelsea. I think Victor Moses as well, Celestin Babayar, not a lot of us. And he's looked at that. London as well, fantastic city. Instead of going to Liverpool or places like that, you want to live in London. But he also has a lot of interest, like Paris Saint-Germain, Man United. But I'm still pushing, sending him messages and trying to make sure that, he doesn't expect too much. Just narrow your mind in one club, the Blues.
So you are genuinely acting as agent Mikel?
I am, definitely. I am pushing him. But I hope he comes to the club because he will bring so much to the club. I think one thing we lack, anybody who watched the final on Sunday will see that one thing we are lacking is scoring goals. We need that striker who will score goals. And that's what Victor will give you. He's not the most skillful guy, but goals, definitely guaranteed. I mean, if he could get us 20 goals per season, 25, who knows? That's what Erling Haaland does. That's why he's one of the best. He's not really there for link-ups and all that. Get the ball in the box, and he will finish. And that's something that definitely Victor Osimhen will give us. So let's hope it works out, and he comes to Chelsea and become a legend.
You mentioned the League Cup final. I know that you were at Wembley Stadium. It felt like a game of fine margins, 2 disallowed goals, both teams hit the woodwork. What did you make of Chelsea's performance?
I actually thought we played really well, but of course Liverpool were a better side on Sunday. I'll give them that. I think when you look from the start of the game, they started really well. They finished the first half strong as well, like they started. Second half, I think it became a bit balanced-ish kind of game. We created chances, they created chances. But I didn't thought where I got disappointed was when the Liverpool youth team players came into the game. I thought that was where we could have, as experienced young team. Our team is young as well, but we were more experienced. Like Enzo Fernandez, he's young, but he's won the World Cup. Caicedo, he's played for Brighton, experienced player. So you can argue that, but we have more experienced younger players. And then I looked at the Liverpool young players that came into the game, barely no experience. And that's where we should have held the game and take control of the game and make sure we go on from there to win the game. But we failed to do that, and that's cost us the game.
Is that a challenge with this new Chelsea project, that it is youth-led? In your day at Stamford Bridge, there were leaders everywhere. Now, perhaps not so much.
Perhaps not so much. A certain Makelele was sitting here just now, somebody that I learned so much from. I remember coming into the club, Mourinho sat me down. He's like, look at him. Watch him for the next 6 months because he's leaving. I want you to take over his position. And then, obviously, I watched him. The position was named after him, the Claude Makelele role. So we had those senior players that, when it comes to the difficult games, they were always there to pick us up and grab you by the neck and say, wake up. This is an important game. And that was something we lacked on Sunday. I looked around the pitch. There was no one commanding, and the likes of JT, Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba, people who were always leading the team. So we don't have that. We need a little bit of more experience in the side. But I hope this young team that we have now will grow together, and next season will be a big season for us.
Is that almost an argument for sticking with Pochettino? Because under Roman Abramovich, change after change tended to lead to success and silverware, but any new manager coming in those days was inheriting people like you, John Terry, Frank Lampard, Claude Makelele, Didier Drogba, leaders again everywhere. Now if you change the manager, anybody coming in is inheriting players that are younger and perhaps not able to just turn things around just because there's been change.
Exactly. I think that was one thing that Roman was really good at. I think Roman made changes. Of course, he sacked the managers, like we say, when you see the helicopters around the training ground, the manager's getting sacked. But he sacked the managers. But one thing he definitely kept was the spine of the team. The Peter Cech, the John Terry, the Frank Lampard, the Didier Drogbas. They were the spine of the team. And so you build everything around these guys, but these guys they always stay. So I don't know what the communication is with Poch and the new owners. I don't know the new owners, but it seems that they've given him a lot of time. We know if it was during Roman, Poch would have been out of the door by now. So let's see what the new owners decide. I hope they give him time. It's a young team. They will develop. They'll get better. So hopefully next season, it's a big season for us. If we don't start well next season, I think he's going to get sacked.
Here's a question for you, to put you on the spot and coming back to the podcast. If you could have on any current Chelsea player for your next episode, who would it be and why?
I'd probably say Enzo Fernandez, because I would like to know a lot more about how it felt winning the World Cup. The only trophy I never won, which is the World Cup. Of course, playing for Nigeria. No disrespect to my country, but we knew we were never going to win it. But I wanted to know how it felt leading up to winning the World Cup. And of course, not my idol, I think the greatest football player that's ever played the game is Lionel Messi. I want to know how it feels sharing the dressing room with him. I played a lot of time against him. I know how it feels playing against him. He's a nightmare. I just want to know how it feels sharing the dressing room with him, day-to-day activities with him. I just want to know how he lived his life, because we see him as such a quiet, shy individual guy. But I want to know if that's just something he shows us on TV or he's a different animal altogether. So, yeah, I think he will be a good guest. So definitely Enzo Fernandez.
Now, I'm not rubbing it in, I promise, but it's not been a good few weeks for finals, for your loyalties, if you like. Chelsea losing in the League Cup, Nigeria, unfortunately, not winning AFCON either. What did you make of that tournament?
Oh, don't rub that in. She doesn't like it.
Congratulations to the Ivory Coast.
No, I definitely have to. I think, of course, the African Cup of Nations final was a hard one to take, because I thought we were pretty much the better team all throughout. If you look at all throughout the tournament, we were the better team. We played some really good football. Young team, very energetic. But then I also give it to Ivory Coast, because it takes a lot for a manager to get sacked during the tournament and then bring someone else in. And then, of course, then they had the wind with them and it just went from there. So I knew that, of course, if they managed to get to the final, for sure they will win it, because, of course, they have the wind with them and everything was just working out for them. Manager sacked, players reacting to manager being sacked, playing much better, running much better. Because sometimes it's just about getting players to run. We are very lazy sometimes. We don't want to run. But once you get players to run, it makes a huge difference. And I could see once they change the manager, the players, you could see their behaviors, their character change. They approached the game differently. They were running more. They were willing to die for the country. But I think that was something that I saw with the Ivorian national team. Yeah, it's not been a very good couple of finals for us, for me, for Chelsea, for Nigeria. But I think this Nigerian team will win more tournament, definitely, because they're so young and they're playing really well. Of course, Chelsea, I think next season will do much better. We need to get some players out of the door and bring some, a little bit more experienced players under the age of 25, 26, 27, that have been there, done it. And then with a couple of the younger players, mix them together, I think we'll have a really, really good team next season.
So coming back to the podcast, if you were on the other side as a guest, I think you'd be asked to tell one story in particular, which is how you almost signed for Manchester United, then went to Chelsea, and then hid the next time you saw Sir Alex Ferguson. Tell me the story.
Well, it's a long story. It went on for a year, so I'm definitely not going to tell you the whole story, but I am going to write a book one day, and I'm going to make a movie of the whole thing one day. But yeah, of course, everybody knows I almost signed for United. I did sign a pre-contract as a young player, but I wasn't 18, so it wasn't technically legal. But then Chelsea come up and said, listen, come to Chelsea. Roman did his Russian mafia moves. Sometimes I had meetings where nobody can imagine. I get a car pick me up from somewhere because FIFA said you can't speak to Chelsea, you can't speak to Manchester United. So I was just left in limbo because everybody trying to sort it out. So what Roman and the club used to do is to pick me up from some spot in London, drop me off at the station, a different car picks me up, drop me off somewhere else, a different car picks me up. So it was a definitely Russian move, but then at the end of the day, we got it done. Technically not legal, but we got it done, yeah. So everyone was happy.
Apart from Fergie, who was fuming.
Apart from Fergie, and obviously the meeting I had with him at the FA in London in the UK, because the FA was like, we need to sort this out. Young player with so much talent, we can't let him sit for a year without playing. Let's sort it out. So Fergie was like, give me an hour with him in an office, just me and him. I will convince him to play for United. So the meeting where it started, so my agent was sitting outside. Before I went, he was like, anything he says, just do this. Anything he says, just do this. So of course I went in the meeting, he was like, he used to call me John Boy. So I went and he was like, what is it they're offering you? Is it more money? If it's more money, please tell me. I'll sign it right now. I'll give you more money. So of course I listened to my agent. He was like, no, I'm not doing it. So I thought I was going to get the hairdryer treatment thrown at me, but then he left angry. And after that, a week after that, Chelsea had to pay some money to get me out of that contract. And everything was fine.
But flash forwards and just briefly, when you were, I think it was Old Trafford, and you next, after this had all been finalised, saw Fergie, didn't you either hide from him or nearly fall down a set of stairs?
Yeah. I tripped on the stairs because he was coming out. Obviously, he was coming out from dressing room, chewing his chewing gum, as he always does, and walking out. And for some reason, I was just standing in front of him. So I saw him. So I went like this. So I tripped. I almost fell down. And that was really, really funny. And since then, he never spoke to me. Never spoke to me. But I was so lucky that every time I played against United, I was, we had a lot of battles together, and we won, they won, and they were our biggest rival. But I never regret moving to Chelsea. It was the best decision I made. I met some really amazing guys. I achieved everything that I wanted as a kid, and really, really happy, really proud of my decision.
You never know. You might be able to persuade Fergie to come on the Obi One podcast.
I might do. That's
He would be a very
that's
good
on the
guest.
works there. That's on the works, but I don't think he'll do it.
So just finally, because we're almost out of time, what's next for the podcast? Because people may think it's sports, they may even think it's Chelsea, but from what I understand, you want it to evolve much broader than that.
Yeah, definitely. I think speaking to everybody, speaking to sponsors, people who want to come on board and things like that. It's not just going to be sports. It's just going to be about Chelsea or football. It's going to be, we try to go across board. We want to interview also musicians. We want to interview the likes of, doctors, people who are, involved in sport, who love sports, who love football, who have knowledge about football. Because we our listeners, they want different thing. Football is there, sports is there, but definitely we have to take it to a different level. So that's something that's going to come in season 2. Hopefully the likes of Davido's, Wizkid, and all these guys from Nigeria that will come on board, and we have a variety of different range of people from all walks of life. So I'm really looking forward to season 2. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. Great stuff. Keep up the good work. It's a really good listen, the Obi One podcast. If you've not checked it out, please do so. It's on all of the socials. But ladies and gentlemen, for now, please give a big thank you and a round of applause to Mikel John Obi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure, mate.
Pleasure.